This is dedicated to the homies that was down since day one. Welcome to Drop D.
A JFK Assassination News and Notes podcast with your hosts, Rob Clark and Doug Campbell.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to Quick Hits, a JFK Assassination Research News and Notes podcast. I am one half of your host, Rob Clark. Along with me today is Doug Campbell. Doug, what's up, buddy?
Well, hey there, and welcome in. What's going on, dude?
Not a whole lot. Freezing my ass off here in Virginia right about now.
Oh, my goodness. Well, it's nice and warm down here in Tennessee. Nice and warm. Guys, it is JFK Assassination News and Notes on deck for you. I am Doug Campbell, host of the Dallas Action Podcast. Hey, Rob, we have a guest sitting at the table with us today, a very special guest. Would you like to introduce him, sir?
It would be my pleasure. Joining us today, noted researcher and author of many papers and scanner of many documents, our friend, Mr. Bart Kamp from Dealey Plaza, UK, joins us on the show. Bart, from the other side of the pond. What's up, buddy?
Hello. I'm good, thanks. I hope you guys are keeping well. The weather here is rubbish as well. It rains all the time. So, but other than that, just getting through this whole COVID malarkey as best as I can. So, but yeah, greetings.
That's what we're all doing, yes. Trying to get through it as best as we can. I have get my second Moderna shot this 3 days from now. So
I've got one in 10 or so, maybe 12 days. I've got one then. So.
And Rob, you need to get one. We all need to get
one. It's a conspiracy. Nope.
No, he's one of those. Dang it!
Y'all are gonna turn into fucking zombies.
No, not me, man. Not any worse than I already am, for sure.
There you go.
All that blather about AstraZeneca as well. I had the AstraZeneca, and I had like a rough day the next day for about 6 hours, and then it was like, yeah, whatever. So.
I had the Moderna and didn't really have a rough time. My arm hurt like a bastard for 3 days.
Yeah,
I'll say that.
I've heard that as well.
Yeah, it was unpleasant.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about things. Not really pleasant things, I don't guess, but things we enjoy talking about, I believe. Assassination news and notes. We got a lot of things to get to, guys. Bart, again, thanks for doing this again, buddy. This is awesome.
It's my pleasure.
Rob, I believe Bart is our first return guest on Quick Hits.
He is.
That's
right.
I've
done this twice before, haven't I? In the beginning?
Once, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But we had a good time.
I don't know. It might be his third time. Who knows?
I'll have to go back and look. But,
I don't know.
I think it's the third time. I think in the first year I was on twice.
I think you're still the only repeat guest. You know it?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Good company. You're good company, dude. All right. Well, this is how we do the show, guys. We got lots of stuff to talk about, a few regular segments. But what we do is everybody brings a discussion topic, something they ran across, something they're thinking about related to the assassination. Rob, what do you have for us today, sir?
All right. Well, I got two quick things for you. The first one is a document posted by Richard Booth over at the Ed Forum, and it is a FBI document dated June the 20th, 1963. Okay?
June the 20th. Say that again. You cut out on me.
June 21st, 1963. So this is pre-assassination, okay? And it is to Mr. Belmont of the FBI from C.A. Evans, whoever the hell that is. Okay, the document states this, and it is stamped and marked all over this sumbitch. John Rosselli is a leading hoodlum in the Los Angeles area with important connections in Las Vegas gambling casinos. On the evening of June the 20th, 1963, the LA office developed information indicating Rosselli was departing from LA for Washington, D.C. under an assumed name of J. Ralston. Upon arrival in D.C., it was determined Roselli was met by an individual later identified as William K. Harvey, former bureau agent and now with the Central Intelligence Agency. The liaison section determined from CIA that CIA is utilizing Roselli in connection with Cuban matters. It is known that CIA approximately 2 years ago had enlisted the aid of Chicago hoodlum Sam Giancana in a plan to neutralize Cuban leader Fidel Castro. In this connection, we determined that former bureau agent Robert Mayhew, presently conducting private investigations, was utilized by CIA as an intermediary. While we have no specific proof of this, we believe that the approach to Giancana by the CIA was made by Mayhew through Roselli. Action. Poppich of the liaison section is obtaining full details of CIA's interest in Roselli this morning. You will be advised of further developments in this connection. And
was a CIA FBI liaison between both agencies.
Yeah.
Sam Poppich.
Now we do know of a lot of contact between those two, Harvey and Roselli, beginning in April of 1963. We've got it where he turns in expenses. Harvey turns in his expense report, and he charges some stuff to QJ Wynn, that operation, that cryptonym. And it turns out he was in Miami meeting with Roselli, which I tell you what's interesting about that to me is when you juxtapose, it was like the second or third week of April, right, that Harvey goes to Miami and meets with John Roselli. Well, at the same time, according to Lauren Hall and his testimony to the HSCA, is sworn, immunized testimony, it was the same time period, second or third week of April, that he met in a hotel room with John Martino, John Roselli, Sam Giancana, and Santo Trafficante. And according to Hall, the whole thing was like, okay, we're going to pull this ruse on the CIA, which turned out to be that Operation Tilt thing, right?
Right.
So it's like, and they told him it was this, but it wasn't. And, even Pauly, that guy William Pauly, says they got duped, the CIA. But that always made me wonder, like, okay, well, was Harvey part of the being duped by this bunch? Or was he in on Roselli and Hall and Martino pulling the wool over the CIA's eyes? What was he part of that? Okay, you want to get support for this mission, you need to tell him this, Where was Harvey in all that was going on if he's meeting Roselli at the same time?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just thought it was interesting that, okay, here's a document, pre-assassination. The FBI knows exactly what the hell's going on with the CIA trying to eliminate Castro. They know about, Roselli and Giancana and Harvey and everything that's going on. And there's proof.
Oh yeah, we've got a lot of documentation of them meeting in that time period. There was a lot going on between April and July 1st in relation to all this stuff. A hell of a lot going on everywhere, especially April. It was a busy month for bullshit. A lot of setting up, a lot of plotting, and a lot of planning.
Oh, yeah, for sure. All right, and then the other thing I wanted to ask you to, since we've got everybody here, I wanted to revisit and get your thoughts on the McCone-Rally document. And I believe that this is where the genesis for the name of your podcast comes from. Right? Yes. The alleged writer of the document, which would be John McCone, CIA director, refers to the assassination as an action, as the Dallas action, and just like in the middle of a paragraph. Right. So I totally stole my title from that document. Bart, are you familiar with the McCone-Rally document?
No.
Man, you know what?
I've looked at so many McCone documents, but I haven't really read them as such.
Rob,
Okay.
I kid you not, man. You know, we
Yes.
always talk about synchronicity. Like when you and I are looking into shit, there's a certain like, oh, really? I was just reading about that the other day. You know, how that happens all the time. I kid you not.
Oh, yeah.
I thought about that document on the way here this morning. I'm not kidding. No shit.
All right.
For
Well,
real.
for the benefit of Bart and some of the listeners that may have never, ever seen or heard this document, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll give you a snapshot, Bart.
Yeah, Bart, if you can like Google image it real quick and read along, it's an amazing document if it's real.
Okay, so this is to Rally from McCone, subject CIA report on the assassination of John Kennedy, dated March the 3rd of 64. In response to the request made by your office on 24 February 64, R.E. Lee Oswald's activities and assignments on behalf of this agency and FBI, there follows a narrative summary of the internal subversive activities of the Oswald subject. I recommend that unless the Commission makes a specific request for specific information contained herein, that this information not be violent. This agency has reason to assume that some junior Commission staff members may be potential sources of leaks to the news media or to other agencies. Due to the highly sensitive nature of the enclosed material, it would certainly be in the national interest to withhold it at this time, unless there is, of course, a specific request made. It is my understanding that Mr. Hoover has certain sensitive information within his agency which has been transferred to his own personal files for safekeeping. He concurs that no material should be voluntarily given to the Commission which might affect this status of field operatives or their safety. He is particularly concerned about the debris memorandum within Central Intelligence has obtained, in which I understand you have obtained. It is imperative that this information, at least for the time, remain under wraps. Oswald's subject was trained by this agency under cover of the Office of Naval Intelligence for Soviet assignments. During preliminary training in 1957, subject was active in aerial reconnaissance of mainland China and maintained a security clearance up to the confidential level. His military records during this period are open to your agency, and I have directed they be forwarded to the Commission. Subject received additional indoctrination at our own Camp Perry site from September 6 to October 17, 1958, and participated in few relatively minor assignments until arrangements were made for his entry into the Soviet Union in September of 59. While in the Soviet Union, he was on special assignment in the area of Minsk. It would not be advantageous at this time to divulge the specifics of that assignment. However, if you wish this information, it can be made available for your interpretation. And it just goes on from there. There's a couple more things in here. Skipping down through. After his return to the U.S., Oswald worked in New Orleans through the Anti-Communist League of the Caribbean and Friends of Democratic Cuba. His case officer was SAIC Guy Bannister from the Chicago FBI office. He was transferred from his assignment there after he was arrested and fined for an incident from his distributing of pamphlets for the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. And that's about it. Please direct any further communications of this matter by personal attention, blah, blah, blah. My office is always available to you, John McCone. So, what do you think about that, Bart?
Where's this coming from?
That's the question.
That's the question.
Is it real? You know,
nobody knows where the hell this document surfaced, probably in the late 80s, early 90s. And
have you got
people
a copy
out there have... Yeah.
If you have, send it to me, please.
Well, if you go to McCone-Rally blogspot.com, it has everything there. It has the best scan of the copy. I'll send you the link.
It's a fascinating document, and you know, but again, that's the question: is it real or is it fake? And the biggest brains I know, Walt Brown and Bill Sipich and like Larry Hancock, they're all in, I think, in agreement that it's probably not real. It's a really good forgery, but basically
just as real as the one that Groden was showing during the last weekend.
You know what? I missed that.
Well, that's also a McCone document.
Was the in the McCone-Rally document? Basically, McCone is admitting to Rally, the Secret Service chief. Look, he was our guy. We don't know what happened, but he was our guy. Whoever pulled off the Dallas action is the way he put it in. That's where I got the name, but
it's something similar to that. Groden came up with it, and I was like, nah, there's no way that anyone like McCone. His papers are incredibly secretive because Malcolm, I can tell you that Malcolm has been trying very hard to get hold of his stuff.
I would be interested.
Stuff that's going to be released next year as well. Because they're in the LBJ papers, LBJ library.
When did this document first come to light, Rob? Is it on the blog spot there?
Well, Bill Kelly, okay, he alleged that it was part of some kind of what they call a zipper release done by, and I'm trying to find who the hell it was, a former CIA employee. I don't know his name right offhand. But when you go through the zipper documents, that's not in there. So he's mistaken on that because there was allegedly some forged CIA documents done in that. But that McCone-Rally document was not in that release. And then somebody else piped up and said, this thing's been around since the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking it'd been around at least that long, like early 90s.
Yeah. But nobody knows exactly where it came from. It's on official United States government memorandum paper. I mean, the typeset.
It's like the glaze
like all the other. Yeah, I mean, so it's hard to, just because Bill Kelly says it's a fake. I mean, we got to prove it's a fake.
Yeah,
and just from looking at the document, it looks legit. But
I think again, I can't remember who explained it to me, but the best explanation I got from somebody that it's missing a lot of marginalia and signatures and things like that. You know what I mean? Initials. But
you're going straight from the director straight to the chief of the U.S. Secret Service. So there wouldn't be too many other people with eyes on this thing.
And that's the counter argument that also makes sense. Like if there's one document you're not going to pass around, it's this, because he basically McCone says, look, we've got some paperwork on this. And I'll show it to you.
Yeah,
but he says
Secret Service documents are hard to come by, man.
Yeah, But he basically says, McCone says, we'll bring it I'll have a couple guys bring it over in a briefcase and you can read it, but you got to give it back and we're taking it back. But like he had some info on Oswald.
Yeah, because it's not stamped secret or top secret; it's stamped confidential.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is high up there.
Yeah,
but again. With the Secret Service, destroying a lot of their files back then. I mean, this is what we call a smoking gun document. So
absolutely.
If it's legit, somebody came across this thing and saved it from being destroyed, or plucked it from whatever hiding place this thing was sitting. Because documents like this are what everybody dreams of finding.
Man, yeah. I don't really.
I'll tell you what. I'll make it easier. So you got this. You can discuss it again in your next episode. If you give me a copy of that document, I want to get a copy of the Groden document as well, and send them over to Malcolm and have him look at it, and he'll know right away where it is.
I would love to know Malcolm Blunt's opinion of the McCone-Rally document. Absolutely. Yeah, because I guarantee you he's familiar with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't guess I have an opinion one way or another on its authenticity. I'll say this, and I've said this before, man. Do I want it to be real? You damn right I want it to be real.
I don't think CIA people talk like that. That's the thing. They don't talk like that at all in documentation. That's already the first thing that's also amount to serious strangeness of so much candor in a document like that.
Well, McCone wasn't a career CIA guy either. You know what I mean? He came from, what was he, like a shipping business dude or something?
I don't know exactly. Yeah. I've looked at a lot of documentation, and Malcolm has made quite a bit of mention of it because the stuff is supposed to be released from the LBJ library next year in 2022.
What do you anticipate being there that we can look forward to?
McCone papers. That's what
okay, cool.
Expects. That McCone's papers were part of LBJ's collection, and they went to the library and they were under seal for X amount of years, and they're supposed to come out next year. But now we're talking documents and all that. I just want to bring it to your attention that Joe Bax the other day said at a conference, he said, that there's less than half of known riffs available online or through the archives to obtain. So it looks like that less of the so-called documents, less than half, have been actually released. People have been trying to point out David Morales and all this type of stuff, that those files are missing and everything else is out there, but it couldn't be further removed from the truth. And the evidence I've got is that, besides what Joe Bax says, is that, well, those that know me know that I've been working on the Malcolm Blunt archives, scanning them in since late 2018. And I find, and only for the last year, I started to check the RIF numbers, and it's just absolutely mind-boggling how many of these RIF numbers turn up either from information that is in the Federal Register to drawing a complete blank and only showing roughly a minus 20,000 number, because the way you present the numbers in the RIF number is 3 numbers, hyphen, 5 numbers, hyphen, 5 numbers. So it sees it also as a deduction, sum of a deduction, and therefore gives you 20K. But then it will say like where else the document is, whether that's on, in the archives, or it's at the Black Vault, or it's at someone else, and it's just nowhere. Some of these RIF numbers are absolutely not recognized, nor in Mary Farrell, nowhere else. So I've started to mark the documents called not online, and it's shocking. At least 20%, if not more, of the material that I scan in that has absolutely no trace online of it whatsoever.
And these are things that you're taking out of Malcolm Blunt's archives.
Yeah, I just take big shopping bags filled with paper.
Yeah, you sent me a picture of a vehicle, a car.
Yeah,
that was just full.
So every time we'll come back with about anything between 15 and, well, the biggest thing I did was 27 bags, and that was a bit much. But I've done, me and Peter Antil get in the car and go up there. It's about 2.5 hours drive for us. And then we go up there in the morning and try and get as much as we can in bags and take it with us. I think I'm going to be done in about 6 months' time with scanning of the main archive that has been in a warehouse and on a different location. So it'll be good to finish all that up, because that's all the old stuff. Dallas and FBI and a lot of CIA stuff and ACCA, ARB, you name it. It's all there. So it's a lot of stuff to people to hold it to. But getting back on track, the actual information that less than half of the files have been released to this day. Okay, and everyone's squabbling about a few CIA files. But what I find is that it doesn't matter what subject matter or law enforcement agency or person whatsoever. There are missing files everywhere, all across the board. It's all missing stuff as such. So
yeah, I did a thing a while back where, let me see if I can remember this correctly. There was a witness who was a Border Patrol agent, I believe, stationed in the New Orleans area. And
you mean the customs people?
Yeah, the customs guys. And
yeah, that's really interesting. I've got a lot of files on that.
Well, this guy said that he knows for a fact that Ferry and Oswald ran with a certain clique of paramilitary Cuban exiles, right? And the reason he knows this is because that there was an agreement that anytime the Federal Marshal Service needed supplemental manpower to monitor certain subversive groups, they would then a Border Patrol bunch would get attached to help them with surveillance. And he said he guarantees that the Federal Marshal, this is what he told, I believe, the ARRB, I can't remember his name, but he says he guarantees the Federal Marshals have records of surveillance that show Ferry and Oswald together. Well, where are those records? Where are they at?
Exactly.
And he said also he would guarantee, because it was in his jurisdiction and all these guys intermingled, law enforcement agencies and jurisdictions and shit, that he guaranteed that the Metairie Parish, I guess, Metairie County or Metairie Parish Sheriff's Department had a lot of surveillance records on these same groups. Where are they at? Has anybody thought to look there to see what might be there even? They may be in a dusty warehouse somewhere and everybody's forgotten about them, and there's paperwork that puts David.
Only.
Yeah, that because it's maybe a local thing, local agency. I'll tell you one thing
on the side is there's a lot being digitized. I'm not the only one that's doing stuff. The boys at Project JFK, for instance, they're heavily involved with digitizing J. Gary Shaw's archive. So that's really interesting. There's a lot of pictures as well, which is really cool. And I know of, I'm not allowed to talk about it, but I can know of 2 other instances where digitization is happening as we speak. And
you can tell us, man. Come on.
No,
Rob, I won't tell anybody. Will you?
No, my lips are sealed. Nobody's ever going to hear this, Bart.
No,
yeah.
These are, all of them are really worthwhile. And
come on, dude, it's just us.
I can't say. I'm not doing that.
It's just us, Bart. Come on.
But so over the next few years, there's going to be a ton of stuff coming out. I plan to release all of Malcolm's documents that I've got ready to go.
Well, I plan on trying to read all of the documents that you release. I doubt I'll get to it, but I plan on digging through them.
That's 120,000 pages at this point. At least 10 to 12,000 PDFs.
See, Rob, that's awesome, right? Because for people like us, we know that's enough reading material to last a lifetime. We're good.
It's the beauty of the Blunt archive.
20,000 more shows.
That's exactly right.
The beauty of the Blunt archives is that it almost talks about everything and everybody in this whole thing. And that's the beauty of it. There's so much stuff available on a lot of individuals. Things that you might have read in a snippet on a web article or in a blog, in a forum post by someone, but never basically backing things up or hard to get. That's what you're going to find. Plus, on top of that, it gives you a hell of a load of leads to look into things.
That's the thing, man. The context, because you can read a blog post or read an article and start at one document that's linked in the text, like you do at your website, Bart, and you're off to the races, and you're just learning and learning and learning, and
I put my work to a stop, basically. I've done some bits. I mean, I'll talk later in a minute about what my thing is I'd like to talk about. But the actual research and putting it together, my papers were supposed to be released a year ago. I've put that on a full stop till I basically finished Malcolm's archive, because I keep finding something on almost a weekly basis that's of value to any of the 4 papers that I'm working on as such. So I said, it's just futile keeping sending updates out. I just thought I'll do the whole thing and then I'll finish it off. Hopefully by the anniversary, and otherwise it's going to be an early Christmas present. And release all 4 papers, updated and new ones, the whole thing, the whole shebang is all coming out in one go. So,
it's hard to, but you did the right thing, because it's extremely hard to, in this sort of area of study, to do 2-3 projects at once, especially one.
Absolute problem.
Especially one.
Yeah, it's just a problem.
Yeah, but and also your scanning thing it's a Herculean freaking task. Huh, Rob?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
I would have.
All right, one more quick document, and we'll get to Bart.
Wait. Back to McCone-Rally, though, dude.
He's got what?
You never gave us your opinion on the authenticity of the McCone-Rally document. I know we've talked about it in the past, but I can't remember. So, yeah, you never told us your opinion.
Roden was putting it forward as well at the JFK.
Is that the one he was talking about?
That's the one. And Joe Bax and I went, that can't be real. And I'm thinking, no spook is this stupid to write stuff like this. And I'm thinking, go away. So Rob just forwarded it to me. I've sent it to Blunty. So as soon as I get a message back, I'll let you know.
Awesome, dude. Conferring with Malcolm Blunt in real time.
Does not matter.
So we'll see. Yeah, cool.
It does not
I'd
matter.
For it to be real, but it probably isn't. But it'd be cool if it was. I mean, if we can somehow, some way, definitively prove that it's been faked, then that's something. I mean, just because people don't like what it says, doesn't necessarily mean that it's fake. McAdams was, and we'll get to him, I guess, later. But he's, of course, the lone nutters are. Oh, that's a fake document. That's fake. That's fake. Because, I mean, like I said, if it's real, it's a smoking gun document, and it just crushes any lone nutter bullshit right off the jump. But I'd like for it to be real, but chances are it probably isn't. But
I need to know the source.
Why?
Without the source, I don't believe anything or anybody. Simple as that. You can just put anything, especially in these days of Photoshop and God knows what. It's an absolute walk in the park to do stuff like this. So now, even
this
though
was done back in 1990, so
I know, but even so, I'm thinking, okay, fine. So where did it come from? Who brought it up? That's the thing I want to know.
That's the thing. Well, here's the real document, damn it.
Well, I guess, Rob, when you say it doesn't matter, you're saying that, there's so much concrete evidence that Oswald didn't friggin' do it that it doesn't matter if it's real.
Well, I mean, it'd be nice if it was, but if it's not real, then, we move on.
Yeah, I'm like you, man. I wish it was, but hey, ballistics, next,
Yeah, but here's a real document.
It's fun to read, I'll say that.
This one is pre-assassination as well, from November 19th, 1963, to Director Hoover from the New Orleans office, the special agent in charge of New Orleans.
All right.
Subject, Lee Harvey Oswald.
On November 19th.
November 19th. Okay. The captioned individual has been the subject of a security investigation by this office. The Dallas Division has verified the permanent presence of the subject in its division as residing and working at the address listed below. The Dallas Division is being considered the new office of origin. And then it has residence address unknown, but then it has business address, Texas School Book Depository, 411 Elm Street, Dallas, Texas. And there's several boxes that you can check on this document, and the two that are checked say this. Let's see. Photograph of subject attached. and Dallas in possession of all pertinent serials.
Yeah.
See note. The note
that's
says,
the one.
photo of subject, New Orleans Police Department, arrest photo number, whatever, 122-723, enclosed for Dallas. So this basically is just, I guess, a memo letting the Dallas division know that they've got a subversive. They know where he works, and they're letting New Orleans is letting Dallas know. But this is November 19th. Sorry. So
3 days before.
what? 3 days before the assassination.
Now, wasn't
They have his photo. They know where he works.
I posted this yesterday on Facebook.
Yeah.
Now-
It's just absolutely mental document.
Let me ask you this: wasn't there a point where, right around the Mexico City thing, where he was very quietly taken off a watch list?
This is where
Bill Simpich calls it
all that crap.
Yeah, Bill Simpich says there was a point where he called it the dimming of the lights on Oswald leading up to the assassination, which makes this document here even more interesting.
Well, I spoke to Malcolm about this because when I found this, and I was like, no way.
Wow.
November the 19th. And I was like, right. So I sent it to Malcolm yesterday, and he said to me that it was, he said, I do not think this is one of mine, possibly Anne-Marie Kuhn's Walco. And she sent the document to him. And the date is from May 94 at NARA, which is too early for him when he started actually doing document hunting. I think he started in 95 or 96. But he says it's a very interesting document. That's the only comment I got from him about this. But it's the fact is that cannot forget that Hosty spoke with Marina. So at that point, early November, they already knew that he was working at the Texas School Book Depository. The beauty of it is, though, the feds knew, right, because that's what the traffic says, that Oswald was working there. So, and we know what happened during the day with the interrogations and so forth, and with Curry, Chief Blabbermouth Curry, basically wouldn't shut up, and Hoover and Shankly and Austin told him to shut up.
That's basically what they did, huh?
He was giving it all away to the
He
to
tried.
the media.
He tried.
So, yeah, so he gave so much away and was admonished for it. But the thing is also, at the same time, the feds knew where he was, and he was on their radar because they made it sound like, well, it was in New Orleans and we had him there, but then all of a sudden disappeared. No, there's reports as well that confirm that Hosty got his file weeks in advance before the killing of JFK, and of course he tried to look him up when he only met Marina as such. But they knew. Where it was.
Did Hosty visit Ruth Payne's house on the 19th, or was it on the 9th?
I don't know.
I can't remember. I know we've run across some documentation before of, Hosty going over there, prior to the assassination. I just can't remember the date. And if it was the 19th, then this document might have spurned him to start digging back, into Oswald. Not that he wasn't already, but they didn't want us to think that. Yeah. Well, that's all I got. Bart, you're up, sir.
My turn?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So basically, what I've now been doing all this time in the last few years is I started to work on Malcolm Blunt's archive. And that started with scanning a lot of stuff. And I know what's available publicly, and I also know what's not. And with Malcolm's archive, the beauty of it is that whatever the subject matter is that you're studying, there is stuff on there that you probably haven't seen. I know that you guys have been dipping in there regularly, which is great.
Absolutely.
That's what it's for.
I'm gonna start. I think I should give you associate producer for content credit on about every other episode of the Dallas Action. Hurrah. Because, like, it just always seems to, you know.
But it's good to present new stuff. That's the great thing about it, you know, because you guys are free to pick whatever and take whatever you want. You know, and the more, the better. And I noticed, for instance, like, well, you probably will be aware of Jim DiGenio crushing Fred Litwin in 2 or 3 articles. For that, I also was with Malcolm's materials, basically forwarding Garrison material he'd never had his eyes on, and which just basically strengthened his case a lot. You know, there's a good handful of heavy hitters who are already dipping in the paperwork, and of course, digitizing them has made the task a lot easier. And Malcolm doesn't have to go off to the copy shop and get things scanned in and to send them off to people and stuff like that. So,
you're doing a public service, man. Absolutely.
Well, thank you. I mean, the good
you helped destroy my buddy Fred.
I guess I hope to finish the warehouse material in 6 months, and then I'm going to have a little break, and then I'm going to work on my stuff, and then there's stuff left at Malcolm's home, which isn't that much, but it's still a considerable amount left, and I hope to finish it all before Christmas. So that's really the aim, just to finish the scanning, and then, you know, things need to be sorted, renaming, OCR technology, all that malarkey, you know. So eventually I'm going to hopefully to use it in something high tech with search engines, but displayed on in a special way, in a touch environment, something like that. Something with maybe artificial intelligence involved, because the thing is with the Kennedy documents is that there's loads of scribbles and annotations and stamps, especially with the FBI stuff. I mean, the ARB stuff is all neatly typed out on computer. But, you know, back in the 60s and all that, that was all, like, typed up. So ink and smudgy letters and I don't know how many photocopies in between. So that's basically a challenge for from a searching point of view, and being able to correlate the data but learn a new way how to investigate and see connections between certain people that you just wouldn't know if you just go through it, or it'd be harder to detect.
Yeah, it's a good idea to get AI involved for sure. Yeah.
Especially now, and I thought, well, with data, this is beautiful, and there's 2 guys from Microsoft that did this before.
Right, yeah.
3-4 years ago. It's like they call it cognitive search. So I want to apply something in the similar vein. So I don't know when it's going to be done. It could be 2 or 3 years. I don't know, And from a research point of view, after I've done the 4 papers, I've got a few subjects that I'm just going to dig into. So because I found so much stuff in these folders that I was like, I'd be stupid not to write about this, because you've got an absolute wealth of info. So, and Malcolm used to write a fair bit himself, and I found some of the stuff. One of them is the actual Dallas police evidence. You can't make sense of any of it. That's the problem. Of all the documents. And he's got paperwork, I'd say, 3 inches thick, just on the actual evidence. So we're talking about the lists of the evidence, then being photographed by the Dallas police. Then the rolls of the photos, of these photographs, being given to the FBI with the evidence. They're supposed to process it. They don't do that. They shoot their own. And for some odd reason, there are 50 or 60 missing images because they say the camera malfunctioned. It doesn't add up at all. So what the FBI says they got for evidence listed and what the DPD has listed is like North and South poles, opposites. It's ridiculous. When he did it in the end, he researched the whole thing, and when in the end, he said he had 6 scenarios of what could have happened with the evidence as such. So I thought, that's worth a look in. So, and there's a couple of other bits. The fingerprints is another thing. It's really strange. There's got a good case of one of the officers souvenir hunting one of the inkless fingerprint sets. And
oh wow,
yeah,
really?
Yeah, you can see it in the book. It's Rusty Livingston's book, First Day Evidence or something like that. What's it called? And he had in his box of materials there was a fingerprint set that I couldn't reconcile with any of the other ones in the archives. The problem is that with the fingerprints is also that there's no original set of fingerprints in the archives or anywhere with the FBI or the Secret Service as such. And all the ones that are on file, official files between the agencies, was only one set of fingerprints they spoke about. And it's a copy of the copy from the DPD. And you've got all kinds of shenanigans about this, how it's done in conjunction with the paraffin test. And, you know, if you'd done a paraffin test before taking fingerprints, then, of course, that would have been already compromised because of nitrates and so forth, you know. So, and that's what they were looking for on the hands. Since Oswald had already handled books that day, it would be, you know, would be a piece of cake to get your hands on nitrate as such, because of the book's cover. Ink has nitrate. But that bit of the fingerprints is something that's a huge mystery, and absolutely, I think it's an even bigger mystery than the Hidell ID, which is the bit I'm going to talk about, and that is the fact that I can tell you now in just one sentence what the real issue is, and that's the fact is that there is not one law enforcement officer that can state either via an affidavit or an interview or, you know, name it, whatever you want to name it, state that when Oswald was arrested and they went into the car, so we're talking Paul Bentley, we're talking Gerald Hill, we're talking
Gerald Hill, Talbert is involved. No, Talbert.
Oh, what's his name?
Talbert. Talbert questioned some of them.
No. Kenneth E. Lyon. Bob Carroll is the fourth one, and there's one more left who, of course, I've got now real trouble. What's his name? Charles Truman Walker. So these five sit in the car with Oswald.
Right.
And they take his billfold or wallet or whatever you want to call it. And allegedly the A.J. Hidell ID is found while sitting in that car.
It was Gerald Hill and C.T. Walker.
Yeah.
Are in the car, yeah.
Yeah, and Paul Bentley who walked with a crutch in the corridor. And then you've got the other two. And they basically, Bob Carroll and, what's his name, the fifth guy? Kenneth E. Lyon. So those five are in the car. But there is not one statement from any of these five guys that basically says he had two IDs on him. One of them was Lee Oswald. The other one was A. Hidell. This doesn't even come out. Hold on. This doesn't even come out on the 23rd. The 23rd. So the entire day of the 22nd. So Oswald's been incarcerated. They've taken the cards of him. The evidence is lined up. Over that whole day, during that whole afternoon and early evening, there's not one person that mentions, neither during the interrogations, neither in their reports of any kind whatsoever, 1, 2, 3 days after the event, and say, there's a Hidell ID found among the evidence. The only person that comes out with that is a guy called Manning Clemens. I'll get to him in a minute.
Well, according to your research on your website, even as late as the 3rd of December, Paul Bentley wrote his report up and doesn't mention the Alec Hidell name at all, even as late as December 3rd, even though it was already out there. He just leaves it out. As a matter of fact, he's really non-specific. He just says several times, doesn't he, that, well, yeah, he had several identifications, but he never...
Yeah, it gets bigger and bigger as the years go by. The thing gets... The amount gets bigger and bigger. The main thing is that Bentley is interviewed in the hallway of the third floor of City Hall, where the DVD is. And he's also interviewed the next day on WFAA. And there's not a word about any ID whatsoever. And this is the same with Jared Hill. Hill spells out Oswald during an interview in the corridor. He's also been interviewed twice. And not once does Hidell come up. And you get an absolute stinker of a lie, which comes from Gus Rose and Richard Stovall, who basically cross each other and make a mistake when it comes to the name on the billfold. And this is where they really make a mess of it during their Warren Commission testimony. So the real problem actually starts with Manning Clements. And Clements also a bit of a fool because, first of all, he goes to the third floor and he talks to Bookhouse. And during his Warren Commission testimony, he states that at 10 o'clock he was there to do an interview which is more like routine, like your name, your address, how long have you been in Russia, how long did you do this, blah, blah. Let's just say that they're non-related to the actual assassination. It's just biographical data.
Okay.
So that's what Clemens says. Clemens then mentions that Oswald's being picked up for a lineup. Now, the problem is that there was no lineup at that time when Clemens says that. The other thing is that there's a document from M.G. Hall. M.G. Hall is Marlon Hall, and if you ever look at pictures of Oswald in the corridor, where he's basically being taken around, the guy with the glasses, that's Marlon G. Hall. He's a very good timekeeper, and he makes a report that states that Clemens arrived around 20 minutes to 8 in the evening. This is around the time that Oswald has actually been taken out to go through a lineup. And the beauty is that this is captured in two videos. The first video being he comes outside and says, they've been giving me a hearing without legal representation, and says, I didn't shoot anyone, no, sir. Then he disappears into the elevator. So it does the Davis sisters lineup, then comes back. Then you get the Patsy sequence. That's around 1940 as well, 20 to 8. So he goes through all that. Then meets Clemens. Clemens says that while Oswald was gone, he looked at the evidence and said that he saw the Hidell ID lying there. But there's a massive issue with that claim as well, because Bookout was with him. Why wasn't Bookout told about this? Or seen this? Because Bookout could have mentioned it in the next interrogation they were supposed to have with Oswald just after around 8 o'clock as such. That would have been the easiest thing. But then by miracle, and this is the funny part, and this gives you some matter to think about, is that if you look at Will Fritz's handwritten notes, and you look at Thomas J. Kelly of the Secret Service notes, and the Bookout notes, the report, then you can see that the first time that Hidell ID is actually brought up is at the end of the interrogations on November the 23rd at about 11:30, 12 o'clock. And you know what? You know what that's in conjunction with? What's really important is that the rifle and the sale of it and the name, the order of Hidell isn't found until in the morning of the 23rd. I haven't pinpointed that yet. The thing is, the FBI are actually normally quite good in pinpointing what time such happened or was picked up, etc., etc. So you have the same morning, that's when they finally bring up the Hidell ID. Not one other person makes mention of this whole thing during the day of the 22nd. It's like the second floor lunchroom encounter. They couldn't bring that up either during the 22nd. It didn't get brought into the news until about just before 12 o'clock, I think. Or 1 o'clock.
Right, and they didn't ask Oswald at all, at least according to the notes that we have, about the Hidell ID before the 23rd, like the afternoon.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he disowned it right away there and then. Now, that's an article that I've got in my diary of all the evidence, every document, every timestamp, basically, as footnotes, all added on and so forth. So it's a fairly long read, but because I've updated my interrogations paper by about 30 odd pages now in the last year or so, and I think there's a couple of other bits that's going in there, and this I came across by pure chance that I just saw. I mean, Sylvia Marr made a mention of it as well, I think. But I just thought, well, you know what? What does the evidence say? And there was loads of it. So I was like, okay. Well, I thought, no, I'd write this piece. So that's my bit.
Yeah. I always wondered, because on the selective service card itself, you in your article, you have a picture from the Texas History website, and you can't even really make out what is on the alleged Hidell ID, at least in that form. I don't know if over the years it's been faded out or what's going on, but the negatives, I guess, of the actual selective service card, you can't really make anything out of it. And I've seen really, really good scans.
Yeah, but the one on the top of this, I think I got this from Getty. And this was the clearest copy I've seen because it's digitized. And it's not digitized from like a print of something or a copy. This looks to me, well, either the original or a first generation copy. It's that good. So, and
that does not look like Oswald's handwriting on there. The Alec Hidell signature?
That's another thing. And somebody else pointed out to me about these cards didn't have photo ID on it at that time. Right. So, but the fading behind all the numbers, that's really questionable. That should have never, ever, ever been there. So, it just has traces of and you can only see this because this is a digital copy. That's why you see all the numbers just messing around, and it's just, some of them do coincide, but it's just weird how that all looks faded. But but to me that wasn't the point, because I'm working on a paper that's about the interrogations, which happens from his arrest midday 22nd till 11:30, 12 o'clock, or it was declared dead 1 o'clock, I think, something like that. That's I only wanted to prove that no one says anything about this ID thing. It's the same thing as Marion Baker allegedly stating that he pointed him out and said, "That's the man I stopped while I was on the stairway," and this was later pointed out that it's just absolute rubbish. That would have been mentioned in 2-3 interrogations after that immediately. That's what it would have done. And that's another problem. The Fritz notes aren't contemporary at all. So, right. That's another thing. If you look at the Fritz notes, in that post that I basically send you the link to, if you compare the 3 bits, this is really peculiar. So you're looking at Hostie's document, and you're looking at Thomas Kelly, and you look at Fritz. They make similar statements at the end of that document, and it starts with the Hidell. And then from the Hidell, he says he would not admit the signature on the Hidell ID, wouldn't say why he had it at all. Okay, so and then you go to, what's this? This is Bookhouse, and Bookhouse goes, with regard to selective service card in the possession of Oswald bearing photograph of Oswald and the name of Alec James Hidell, Oswald admitted that he carried his selective service card but declined to state that he wrote the signature of Alec J. Hidell appearing on same. He further declined to state the purpose of carrying same or any use he has made of same. So that looks like a rough copy of the other, okay, from one of the other. But then you've got, I just have to mention this, Thomas Kelly. He was really big with Marina afterwards, guarding her and all so forth. At this time, Captain Fritz showed a selective service card that was taken out of his wallet, which bore the name of Alex Hidell. This is Alex for the next. Oswald refused to discuss this after being asked for an explanation of it, both by Fritz and by James Bookhout, the FBI agent. Now then, the follow-up, okay? This follow-up only exists in Thomas J. Kelly's document. And this is a find by Sean Murphy. Wherever you are, mate. Thank you. I asked him if he viewed the parade, and he said he had not. I then asked him if he had shot the president, and he said he had not. I asked him if he had shot Governor Connolly, and he said he had not. He did not intend to answer further questions without counsel, and that if he could not get apt, then he would hope that the Civil Liberties Union would give him an attorney to represent him. At that point, Captain Fritz terminated the interview. But that's at 11:30 a.m. in the morning, so he still hasn't got an attorney. He wants to get apt, but he hasn't been able to get a hold of him, and they'll say the ACLU will do it. But it's the first bit, right after when they start talking about the selective services card, because here it says, I asked him if he viewed the parade, and he said he had not, and also whether he shot the president, Connolly. None of that is reflected in either Fritz's or Bookhout's reports whatsoever. And especially when he said, I didn't watch the parade. Why would Fritz or Bookhout that not make mention? And so forth. This is a really strange thing appearing in a document where somebody is alleged to have said, where two other people write similar document and have things similarly lined up as such, and then all of a sudden there's no mention of it. And if he hadn't watched the parade, then they would have written that down, because it would have cut him off from being on the landing as such. There we are, Brian, back at prayer, man.
You had to bring him up. Dang. Well, we didn't mention any last name, so it's cool.
So that's my bit on the Hidell, and in one of the many inconsistencies in the evidence that comes forward, with thanks to Malcolm Blunt. So, in all honesty, if I started hoarding this myself, I could probably do this till the day I die and bring papers and movies out, because the amount of evidence and the amount of great stories, and I've just, for the fun of it, I've read a lot of Pentagon stuff. I've read a lot of New Orleans. There, in the Garrison files, there are names that no one has ever heard of. There's just, Jim DiGenio the other day I've never heard of this guy, and I'm like, neither have I. And I'm not that well read at all.
That's exactly right. This Joel David Kaplan guy, I'd never heard that story before. I don't know if you might have heard it on I did a thing with Ted Rubenstein. We talked about it. This guy that broke out of a Mexican prison in 1971 via helicopter. He was a CIA agent who was convicted of murder in Mexico and jailed. And this is that's what I'm saying. You dig into this stuff and you just learn all these backstories and all this history, hidden history, that you didn't know before, and it's fascinating. But he was convicted in 1961 of murder in Mexico and jailed, prison, and then in 1971 he broke out. But in 1968, and I learned this from digging through the Malcolm Blunt files that you uploaded and shared with us, that in 1967, a Mexican journalist came from Mexico and visited Garrison and thought that this Kaplan guy was connected to the assassination somehow.
Yeah.
And tried to sell him on the idea. But he wasn't.
Yeah. I know. I've read some of that.
It's a hell of an interesting story. And then,
I know. That's the thing. There's loads of this stuff and on all levels. And here's the thing. My research is. I'm like trying to timestamp it as much as possible. When I did the lunchroom encounter thing, at first I wasn't really sure how to make sense of it. And I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go like what Baker's route was supposed to be and chop it all into bits and turn that into chapters, who says about what. And then for some reason I lost track of that with the interrogations one, because the interrogations one started to become like my website. It was all like per person, so the stories. And on top of that, after I was like in 450 pages thick, a Word doc of 450 pages, and I was like, way too much, way too cluttered. Take everything out that has nothing to do with the actual interrogations, and basically start putting it in a timestamp. What time did they say this, and where was he, who was doing what, and et cetera, et cetera. And that has given me a much better way of getting trying to look at the bigger picture as such. And then Malcolm's archive as such is just perfect for putting pieces inside the puzzle that are missing as such. And I discovered a lot of gold, basically, for me, but I think there's also for others, because like I said, it covers almost everything, and there's a lot of stuff that has not been online ever before as such. And there's another thing, that's what people need to understand when they go through the archives. If you come across a riff sheet, just the actual frontal sheet with the number, the summarization of who, what, where, and when, then you have at least evidence. And it says not online, then at least you have evidence. And you can go to NARA, email them, and attach that PDF to it and say, I want this document.
Yeah, where's it at?
Exactly. That you can do. So at least you have evidence that it exists due to its RIF number system. And there's a fair amount of sheets spread over these archives as such. And also, some of them are incomplete because that's what was there. And I wish it was more organized at first, because I spent a lot of time reorganizing it, because the way to describe it is just put it in a bulldozer and turn the hatch. Excuse me. And it all falls out. And then stick it together again without checking where it's going to. So I don't know what's in those folders at all. It says lots on the side, on the labels. But whether it's in there is a completely different thing. So, so I end up, I started scanning, but I started to organize over the months coming, early 2019. And then, and that system, just imagine a folder with internal folders underneath, all like that, and all interconnected. And, to set that up, that took at least a year and a half just to have it set up, where I barely have to make another folder anymore now. But it was, lots of subjects and lots of sub-subjects and so forth too. And, the OCR is basically there in the titles. You can search by date, but you can also search by name. So the key names are in most cases just in the title of the actual document as such. So, but there's something still being worked on. So, but hopefully by the end of the year, I can release that in such a shape that I can call it phase 1, and then probably end of next year finish it all off neat and tidy. So alongside research.
When you do put it out, you got to come on here and talk about it first, man.
Not a problem. Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
I'd be happy to. I mean, by that time, I'll be very glad it's over. So.
Hey, now before we move on, let me ask you guys this. Your opinion on the Hidell ID, how it got to the crime scene. I'm of the opinion that Captain Westbrook may have been the guy that brought it to the crime scene. What do you think?
That'd be such heavy speculating.
Oh, absolutely, 100%, 100%. But it was just that whole thing about.
I know one thing. I don't know whether Westbrook did it or not. What I do know is that it didn't exist on November 22nd inside the DPD. That's for sure. That's what I can tell you.
Not
sure.
yet, huh?
It just didn't exist until Saturday morning, 11:30. That's when it existed, or just before that.
What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, coincidentally, when they find out that the rifle was ordered in that name, and they finally found out what he had been up to doing in New Orleans under that name, allegedly, that this ID pops up and ties a nice, neat little bow on everything. Very coincidental.
Very coincidental.
I've got something else. I haven't published this yet. This is a document from 1961. And the name, this comes from the secrets, this is from the Warren Commission. HSCA found this. This is a 32-page file. And this is really weird. The date is really weird because it says November 29th, 1961. And this leads in information on Cuba and Adrian Elba, Klein Sporting Goods, Chicago, of course, where the rifle comes from. Oswald Lee, post-Russian period, finances. And then it says James Abner Hidell. Hidell is spelled Hotel Alpha Yankee Delta Echo Lima Lima. Hidell, basically. Hidell. So it's spelled like that. I don't know whether this date is correct because the originator is the Warren Commission, and the Warren Commission wasn't around around that time. So, but it just a really weird thing. And the date of the last review was August 16, 1963. So the whole idea, I don't know what to make. And the problem is that this is only a riff sheet.
August?
So, yeah. But
August.
this should be, so if that's the case, then the name Hidell was already known to them before all that. Or at least an alternative.
Well, we know it was known to, apparently known to Army intelligence prior to.
Yeah.
From what Colonel Jones
and the FBI in New Orleans.
Oh, that is a great
the
story.
FBI in New Orleans.
I've got that part is also in that article about Hidell. And basically, Robert E. Jones allegedly tells him about the Hidell ID. But let me do you one better. During the HSCA, he totally denies it, that he said that Hidell, that he knew about that name in the files. And
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't there. So he totally contradicts what the feds did. But what the Fed did was, there's two reports, and I think I linked to them in that article. And one of them is to San Antonio, but one of them also goes south, I think, to Dallas in the evening. So there's about 3 different reports. One is a 2 and back, and the other one is only a 2. And it just shows that the Hidell name is being inserted around 3-4 o'clock as such.
Well,
even then, Fritz would have picked up on that and said, "What's this with this ID and this, that, and the other?"
Well, I'm
because
looking
by
at this.
that time, he only had done one interrogation. He came out of it at 4 o'clock. That was the finish of the first interrogation, and he was then talking to what's his name from the Secret Service, Forrest Sorrells, for about 5 or 10 minutes before he went to the Markham identity parade. Sorry to interrupt, but
I was saying that this document from that you highlighted green here on your website under the Robert E. Jones section says at 3:15 p.m. November 22nd, 1963, Lieutenant Colonel Robert E. Jones advised that through news broadcasts that he had learned that Lee Harvey Oswald had been arrested after killing a police officer in a theater. All right. That he told the House Select Committee on Assassinations that he learned it from a source in the Dallas Police Department.
Yeah.
So he's and then it was at that point that the House Select Committee questioned him on, okay, well, who was it? And he said, well, I don't want to say. And then they got around to, him talking about the fact that there were anywhere between 45 and 60 Army intelligence reservists who worked for the Dallas Police Department.
Yeah, the FBI should have handed that stuff over back in '64, and they didn't do that. There was nothing about Army intelligence whatsoever, just like nothing about the Central Intelligence Agency and their affairs in Cuba, where people afterwards pretended to be miffed about the support given, and the people that were deeply involved in that were very close to what happened in Dallas and New Orleans and so forth. And that was all kept away from them and so forth. And it's just now you're having a laugh, but the same thing is with this military intelligence stuff. It's just the same thing. You're having a laugh.
Yeah, for real.
Let's talk Project JFK and the
you want to
CSI Dallas.
Well, first, we guys, we should note a couple of notable passings, right, Rob?
Yes, most definitely.
Most definitely. I'm thinking about Richard A. Sprague.
Pay homage and tribute.
Huh?
Pay homage and tribute.
Homage and tribute.
To our fallen brethren.
Fallen brethren, like Richard A. Sprague, passed away, guys, very recently. I think on April 5th. Is that right? I believe on April 5th or 15th. I can't remember, but he was the original.
Right, yeah.
He was Robert Blakey's predecessor as chief counsel to the House Select Committee on Assassinations. Passed away. A good reputation that guy has.
Yes, indeed, because they left because it wasn't going to be a proper investigation with subpoenas and so forth. So, and that's what he thought he climbed on board for. And that's the problem with what this HCA faced, especially in the beginning, the first 6 months of its creation. Them leaving, him leaving, Robert Tannenbaum leaving, G. Robert Blakey replacing. And
because of that, another guy left, L.J. Delsa. And I know Rob and I, we both have a high opinion of Delsa and his work.
Is he still around?
He is still around, but I have been unable to find him.
Right, because he'd be awesome to get on the show.
Oh, what are you talking about, dude? I agree, don't you, Rob? We've tried, right?
Yeah, we tried. I don't know if anybody has any contact information for Mr. Delsa. We'd more than be happy to take it. I know the last time we've heard from him was when Jim Fetzer interviewed him in New Orleans, 5 or 6 years ago now?
Yeah.
Oh, before Sandy Hook. All right.
I did at one point, I got a hold of, found part, I don't know what relation to Delsa they were, but I did track some of them down on the phone trying to find him. And all the lady told me was, we don't really talk to him. And I left it at that. And okay, thank you, ma'am. And I don't think I went any further with my inquiries.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. She might not have said it that nice either. It might have been more like a, we don't really talk to him, kind of thing. But I don't know what's up there.
It's probably more in that zone, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. But I would love to talk to L.J. Delsa because I think Rob and I think like he does on a few things. Or at least he was convincing, like Thomas Beckham and Lawrence Howard, that kind of thing. He was on the right track. Had Richard Sprague been able to stay, Delsa might have solved the damn thing for us, guys.
Agreed.
Well, I don't know about that, but I just thought there would have been more of a tenacious research,
right,
and not blow it off on the mob. That bullshit.
It was during that period of time. I think with the swap over. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, but with the whole swap over and the tumultuous things going on, that Delsa was prohibited from pursuing Thomas Beckham any further?
Well, yeah, they effectively cut off that avenue of investigation. They stopped funding them to go to these places and talk to these people, and I'm sure Delsa wasn't going to foot the bill himself. He was getting paid to do what he was doing. So when they cut that funding off, that was it.
It's all too close to the actual thing as well. I mean, when they start investigating, 12 years after the deed, 13 years? That's when wounds are still raw and open.
And somehow L.J. Delsa decided to managed to not only find Lawrence Howard, but end up having a beer with him in Lawrence Howard's living room. That's the kind of investigator that guy was. That soon in the investigation,
Him and Gaten Fonzie and another, half a dozen of these guys that were quite on top of it. But here's this thing. AGCA, great. ARB just got some bits that are really interesting to follow because the ARB, for instance, hunted down on medical and on military intelligence, a lot more on some other things. But I always thought, there wasn't much of a deeper research into Dallas and the police, especially, how all that happened, this, that, and the other. Yeah, the AGCA interviewed almost, 30 to 40 DPD sergeants and detectives and captains as such. That they basically formed a better picture of what actually went wrong with the evidence. That I just miss. Because here's the thing, to me, it's about cutting off the head of the snake. Because if you kill something off at the very beginning, then the deck of cards with whatever side you're on, lone nutter or CT or conspiracy theorist, is that the whole deck of cards just basically tumbles away from you, and therefore gives more legitimacy to actually what has been written about and so forth, to get that head cut off and basically be able to disprove a lot of other things that were created to cover up and so forth. That's what I think is, for me and from a research point of view, I'm trying to build a picture and say, this is what really happened due to the documentation that's been presented at this point. I can't believe we got less than half of the documents out. That's just mad. And
think of the otherwise unknown, or would have been otherwise unknown history that we've learned from just under half.
Yeah. And the thing is also, that's another thing with Malcolm Blunt's archives, is that there's plenty of leads to follow, but there's also leads as in files that were marked for destruction, files that have disappeared, files that come up empty, files that in search boxes start to show up all of a sudden with new numbers and codes and God knows what, and there's no further trace of them afterwards and so forth. That by itself is also a mission on its own. You really have to want to look for so-called documents that, haven't been archived or selected for archive or have been named as such. Here's a good one. The ranking papers. So ranking basically these were internal papers of the Warren Commission. And the Warren Commission can talk. So they send all their findings and their analysis to J. Lee Rankin. And these papers, for instance, are exempt of the JFK Act because they're seen as like personal internal traffic of the Warren Commission and so forth. And I got a few of these papers, not a lot, but there seems to be a fair amount around. And these papers are exempt from something like the JFK Act, was it from 1992. I still don't get it how they can get away with just publishing under half, because it only means that there have been internal reclassifications of some sort. Because that's what I see with Malcolm's material. If you that many documents find in all over across the board with not online or no trace of it, or maybe mentioned in the Federal Register and so forth, like all these different styles of not online. You just go like, but there's something really wrong, and people are going in. And this is what Malcolm then tells me as well. He goes, "Oh, I met these 2 old CIA guys. These are like guys after their retirement, and they get drummed up to go to NARA and go, yeah, have a look through these documents to see if there's anything that needs to be pulled and so forth." So my take on this is every few years, a couple of guys in raincoats start to appear at NARA and go through everything and basically make up their minds there and then what they're going to take out. And this is also the reason why Malcolm's got so many.
And what they're going to delete.
Delete. Just disappear.
Yeah,
or just disappear.
Or you know what I've been running across is, hey, I'll tell you what, delete pages 9 through 11. You know, man, you read these documents and it's like whole gaps. Allegedly declassified shit. Just pages, 15, 20 pages missing. In the middle of sentences.
But it's still more than anywhere else. So this is one thing. It's good to have a good whinge or moan about the documentation that is there and that's not there. Yeah. You cannot do this in Europe at all. It just doesn't exist. In England especially, you try to go to the archives there and get something out through a FOIA, and then you're talking about something from World War One.
Yeah, okay? Our friend Rob and I have a friend, Francesca Akhtar, and she does a lot of research, Cold War history and British archives. Sent me a big batch of British JFK documents one time too, years ago. Hello, Francesca, but yeah, she talks about the British system's even more of a nightmare for sure. Yeah. But
but there's supposed to be more stuff coming out this year. I've heard dates from April till October. I think Larry Schnapp is doing something on that.
Yeah, they've got a group of like-minded lawyers trying to go after him, I think, and make sure that doesn't happen. Well, guys, somebody else. There was another loss in the assassination research community recently in Mr. John McAdams, operator of McAdams Post website, lifelong, Rob, dedicated and adamant Warren Commission defender and lifelong critic of those of us who believe conspiracy, passed away this April. He's 45 years as a political science professor at Marquette University. Now, guys, as I understand it, Mr. McAdams absolutely managed to infuriate many folks like us over the years.
Oh, yeah.
But, now, not me, mind you. I never had any contact with him because I generally pay absolutely none, zero effing attention to Warren Commission defenders. I don't care. I don't care.
I'd like to mess with them.
They've got nothing to offer me. But so about Mr. McAdams, I'll just say this. I'll echo and paraphrase, Rob, the sentiment expressed to me by our friend Ted Rubenstein and say that no matter what you thought about him or of him, I hope somebody keeps his website up because there's a lot of good info there. And I'll just leave it at that.
I don't know about good info, but there's lots of info there.
Lots of info. No, there's a lot of good information there. A lot of usable facts. You
can always find it through the Wayback Machine.
Yeah, but it's his interpretation of them that gets all janky. But I agree with Rob. It'd be a shame if that website went away.
Yeah,
I agree with Ted. Did I say Rob? I meant Ted.
We don't do here what's done on some other shows. We don't dance on anybody's grave. Rest in peace, John McAdams. And, his legacy will speak for itself.
That's exactly right. And his analysis will in the end, won't it?
That's right.
That's right. That's right. Well, you know what happened last weekend, Rob? There was a recent online research conference on Zoom, some of which I was able to attend, and at which Mr. Bart Kamp made a presentation. And it was held this past April 30th. Friday, April 30th, Saturday, May 1st, and Sunday, May 2nd. Yeah. The Project JFK CSI Dallas group, Casey Quinlan.
Virtual conference.
Yeah, a virtual conference that they did, hosted on Zoom. And they had a lot of presenters, along with our friend Bart. They had Casey Quinlan, David Knight, Brian Edwards, of course, the three guys that put it on. Robert Groden, Gary Shaw, David Denton, Alan Dale, who, by the way, you can hear on the very next episode of the Dallas Action, fellas. What about that? And Dr. John Newman, my buddy Bill Simpich, Larry Hancock, Stu Wexler, Larry Rivera. A bunch of people spoke. I didn't get to see near as much of it as I wanted to, unfortunately. I did, I'll say this, a fellow by the name of Ryan Jones, who is the museum historian and educator at the Lorraine Motel and Museum in Memphis, Tennessee, gave a very enjoyable presentation regarding Dr. King and the Dr. King assassination. But other than that, I didn't really get to see much of it. Bart, you saw a lot of it, if not all.
I saw a lot of it. I saw almost everyone. I don't know if this is an American thing or a European thing, but in Europe, like a deep UK, we just chat nonsense or whatever to each other for the first hour before we actually get the speaker in. Everything was well organized. I think Project JFK did a fabulous job. But I would have liked to have like some sort of a break, because there is really relentless, with no remorse whatsoever. It's just 8-9 hours of talk of speakers, basically. So you have to basically, at some point, you have to walk out and go, oh my God, because I'll tell you what, I woke up Saturday morning. Saturday morning, I woke up and I felt like I'd been on not like I'd been drinking, but like I didn't have enough sleep for my liking. And don't forget,
that's never a good feeling. I'm with you.
Ahead.
I'm down with that.
Yeah, we're ahead of you guys with time, so we're at least 6 hours ahead. So by the time they start, we're already talking 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, right? Basically when it kicks off. So by the time it's done, it's about gone midnight, maybe 1 o'clock. So it was hardcore. I thought my presentation, it was a train wreck. I tried to put too much material into 1 hour. And even by just talking in loose terms about the second floor lunchroom encounter and leaving many, many things out, I was already on the 40-minute mark. And I only had 20 minutes left to do all of it of the interrogations. So that made me having to pick and choose as well. And that was to my detriment, or to the flow of the actual presentation. And the thing was that I'm not going to talk to anything or anybody anymore until I've basically finished the archives. So then I'll concentrate on the material and the graphics and so forth. And on the first day, there was a couple of other good speakers that I thought were interesting. Bill Simpich started to talk about Kent Biffle. That was quite good. And I really enjoyed David Knight's presentation. I think he did a presentation that day, in Casey Quinlan as well after him. But it was a presentation that apparently he had done before, which was about, like, with a synopsis, like, if the opening of before the tracheotomy, the wound, the size of the wound, how many millimeters would that be? And, from then the reports that come from the doctors that he found out as such, I think it was up to 6 millimeters. So therefore, if it's only 6 millimeters, what kind of ammo will actually penetrate that? And, and then also what rifles be used with that and so forth. So he put some parameters out at the beginning and then basically started to investigate with the rifle afterwards. I thought that was really good. I saw David Denton only partially. Gary Shaw I saw. I asked a lot of questions, quite a fair amount of questions myself. Alan Newman and Alan Dale and John Newman together as well. It was a pity that it was a movie as such. And then who else was good?
I've met David Denton. I've met David Denton a couple times. Rob and I met him up in Washington, D.C. a few years ago. And he's a damn good guy, but I completely disagree with him on Judy Baker and James Files. 100,000%.
Oh, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. You know what? If you guys think you're extremists to take what position to take, I'm much more extreme, because First of all, in most cases, if I'm completely against it, is first of all because it wasn't researched thoroughly enough as such. And if there's no documentation to back it up, then you're even in more deeper troubled waters as such. Stu Wexler did a good thing on MLK, and Larry Hancock as well about his latest book, Tipping Point. I know that he's going to speak with us soon in end of June about his book as well, so I look forward to hearing that. What really got to me was on Sunday. First of all, I think it was Robert Groden at first. I wasn't very impressed with that presentation at all, but I was even less impressed with answering questions afterwards. I thought his presentation, the quality of it, was just really questionable because maybe it is because he doesn't want anyone to take a digital copy of his Zapruder film pictures and the autopsy pictures, and a lot of it was done. First of all, the density of the Zapruder frames was way too deep, and it looked really, well, I wouldn't say smudged together, but there was not a lot of definition going on at all. And then the autopsy photos he had them all colorized, and I thought that was a mistake because they don't look very good colorized. They really look colorized. There's better techniques for that these days. And what really just peeved me off was he'd taken the autopsy photo of the one where they hold up his back and where the back of his head is, and where you have that, if you know the autopsy photos, there's the back wound. But if you go higher up and you look at the back of his head, there's a mask basically put in there with a massive solid black surface, and it's put where the back of the head was, which is exactly a spot where all these doctors and nurses said he had a massive blowout hole. So instead of that, he photoshopped. Now, he said I photoshopped this image, but he didn't say where he photoshopped the image. So at first I looked and I go,
well, it's nice of him to warn us ahead of time.
Well, but I was like, what's that mark in the bottom back of the head? That doesn't exist, because if he had left the original photograph intact, he could have just pointed out the fakery instead of just mucking about and putting all these so-called brains in it, trying to create some sort of a picture of what might have been. So I was really pissed off at that. But I thought, okay, you know what? If you're going to treat evidence like that, you need to be clear about that as well. And it wasn't just really clear. He just went, yeah, I did some Photoshop. And I was like, pfft. So that really set me off. And then afterwards, at the end, well, I'm just like, hold on a minute. Now we need to talk. So the first thing I asked him 4 questions. And the first question was about the couch and the Darnell film. They were spliced together. And I don't know why that was, but he admitted that it was his mistake, because I don't know if the video still exists on YouTube, but you can see that first Couch and then Baker's journey continues with the Darnell film, because Couch doesn't film as far as Darnell did towards the steps of the steps of the TSBD. So you have that. And he said, yeah, that was my fault, and I'm sorry about that. And I thought, yeah, that's not a problem whatsoever. I then started talking to him about the films and what they were lost, and I know a fair bit amount of it. And so who's got what and where's with this, that, and the other. And then I started talking about it and got Gary Mack into the game, because he did it himself as well, brought him up. And I got like a real non-answer. And I thought that was really, really weird, because he was just trying to bat it off. And then I did another 2 questions. And I was going to ask him, the last question I was going to ask him was about why on earth did he say that Oswald was on the 2nd floor office getting changed when the shots happened and so forth, because that's total rubbish. And that's as rubbish as that document. The more I think about it, the more I think that document is rubbish from McCone. And after these 2 or 3 non-answers I got from him, I basically just went, there's no point, because he just won't talk about things at all. So that was a real regret, and I just went, okay, fine. You got Larry Rivera as well, but Larry Rivera did something really cool. which was Tyler, Fred Newcomb, father and son. They worked with Jill Toff on interviewing people, and this is even before the HSCA. And they managed to talk. They had a very clever way of introducing themselves, because they said, like, oh, we want to talk about the JFK assassination. And they didn't make a mention of that at all. They said, we're talking about world events that have been talked about on a grand scale. So basically, you can just throw anything in there, whether it's an earthquake or, you can just throw it all in there. Just don't mention JFK. And then they start talking, and quite a few were willing to talk. These tapes are actually quite rare, because I know that Jill Toff tried twice to get this project off the ground through something like similar, like GoFundMe. And both times that didn't work out as imagined. And I got my hands on a handful of these tapes. And you got Jack Doherty, for instance. You got Will Fritz, who doesn't want to talk about anything. But he had basically the motorcycle cops right next or behind the limousine. So, and, that's kind of cool when you bring up material that hasn't been heard or isn't as public as such. There was something really questionable after that about Clint Hill, that his glasses were painted in. Now, this is like typical Larry Rivera coming out. He did a really good presentation with the coppers and letting these people speak and putting it forward and so forth, and then just taking it. But this is Jack Ruby didn't shoot Oswald guy. No, that's Ralph Sinke.
Oh, he's not. I thought he was down.
Brothers in arms, Larry.
But isn't he Rob down with that theory that it was actually not Jack Ruby? And
he lies himself with all them guys and Fetzer.
And they stopped the limousine and changed the oil in the middle of Dealey Plaza while
That's when he's done.
Okay.
Really?
Okay.
That's absolutely. But anyway, so he. That was really questionable at the end of his presentation. Then on, let's see, who else we got? Phil Nelson was on. I didn't spend much time on him, but the first one was Jimmy Langcup. Langcup was given as the only one 2 hours. And he got everything and everybody involved. Okay, and I'm not kidding. He went all over the place.
Rob, do you remember the Onion headline? JFK killed by FBI, CIA, ONI, USSR, AFL-CIO, KKK, President hit.
The ultimate conspiracy theory.
President hit from 127 times from 74 different angles. That headline, that was basically it. It was.
It wasn't as crazy as that. It was a little bit better. Here's the thing, Rob.
He said it wasn't quite as crazy as that.
Everyone was groaning like, when is this going to finish? And they went to David. David, you know what? We've got to cut this. And the guy didn't want to stop. He didn't want to stop. He just kept on talking.
I didn't make it that far into his thing. I did see Larry Schnapf in the comment section going, I'm going to go get on with my life now. What are we doing? That's a quote.
Like that. Yeah. William Law did an excellent talk because, first of all, he got one of the former federal agents that were at the autopsy, James Seibert. He showed some of the video of that interview, and William doesn't do things by half. With some of the people that he interviewed, he filmed them professionally as such. Always had a good cameraman with him, and shooted it in a good format, broadcast material style. And so he did that, and it was really cool. And now the other thing that was really cool was that he spoke to his Secret Service agent about the limo in the garage. And that's another article I'm working on. So I've asked him to give me the disc so I can use the material. And I got a folder and a half filled with paperwork on everyone who was there, the shifts, everything, all the rotas, all kinds of things about the hole in the windshield, etc. Loads of pictures and so forth. So that was the interview. I thought, oh yeah, that'll make a nice article. So I'm probably going to do that for DPUK, and that,
Cool. Don't forget to send us an invite to that when that occurs.
I will.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
overall, the whole thing, it was really, the event itself was cool. It was pacey. Everybody stuck pretty much to the schedule. But it's full on, I've got to say it's a sport, because on Monday morning I woke up and I went, my God.
Well, and guys, this is the same bunch that does the once a month Zoom sort of informal research gathering we were talking about meeting.
They do that as well.
Yeah,
that's really good.
That is some fun. I do enjoy that. So
It's nice because there's quite a few researchers that are part of it. We do the same thing with the Zoom talks at DPUK. We get 90 to 95% of the of viewers is what they do. So there's not a lot of difference in that. Around everything hovers around 25 to 30.
Yeah.
And the research factor is higher.
Hey, Rob and I need press passes to that.
You've got G. Gary Shaw there, so he can talk about the old days. Philip Shannon is.
Well, I'm a DPUK member, so I get invites.
Yeah.
Well, see, I'm not. I need a guest
Pony
pass.
up, Douglas.
I know, hell.
Oh yeah, Douglas. But
Hey,
the
wait a minute, money. Whoa, wait, hang on.
the research part is a tad higher than it is in England. There are more researchers in the States on this subject. So it's kind of nice to say, oh, well, what are you doing? What are you working on? Oh, I've been doing this lately, and so forth. And the thing is, I was invited by our mate Neil, because he says, like, I've been talking to these JFK guys, Project JFK guys, and I was like, who are they? And he goes, oh, them lot. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember. He says, but they've gone further with their website, because now putting on the stuff on Gary Shaw's archives, who must have quite a bit of stuff, and they're working hard on getting it on that website as such. So they're quite similar to DPUK, and they hold every month in the second or the third week of the month, they have their impromptu sessions. And I went there in Feb for the first one, and the next thing I do is I'm talking for an hour and a half or something like that. And it was just at the top of my head. And
it happens. Hell.
Exactly. And I was just talking about all kinds of stuff, and they all liked it, and they offered me that slot. And I said, yeah, that's fine, I'll do it. But, it's a good bunch of guys, and, they doing these events, because I think they also used to do luncheons before COVID. And they do it a weekend before assassination weekend. Just stay away from the usual posses and gatherings and going through all the malarkey of trying to get speakers for that weekend. Because that's another thing we did with DPUK. We only have non-American speakers. That's not because we don't want to. It's just because we can't be asked having to look for an American speaker on that date, because most of them.
Hey, me and Rob will do it. Me and Rob will do it, because nobody's going to ask us to speak anywhere else.
No?
No. I did do a Lancer thing last year for their virtual conference, but I prepared it like 3 months in advance. So, I just sent it to them, let them run it. But yeah, guys, the Project JFK CSI Dallas, Casey Quinlan, if you'll remember, was on with us last show, telling us about that monthly conference. So go check it out, guys. You know what I think? I think it's time for us to move to the lighter side of research. What do you think?
Oh yes, yeah, I'm all for it.
All right.
Allow you to.
You know what? It's time for Facebook Shenanigans.
There you go.
Yes, Facebook Shenanigans, guys, where we look at weirdness on social media as as it pertains to JFK assassination research. Let me cut that song off there. That was that too loud, guys? You think? I don't know. Maybe not. No, there we go. Yeah, it was good. It was great. Facebook shenanigans. This is like I say, weirdness on the internet as it relates to the JFK assassination, and there's never a shortage of the weirdness, Rob, is there?
Never. Now, quite a few years ago, I bought a book off of Amazon, and I can't remember the title right off the top of my head, but it was authored by a fellow named Paul Gibson, and never seen him in any of the forums or online or anything anywhere else.
Right.
So I read this book, and it was just utter horseshit. I mean, the most fucked up shit you can imagine. This guy had written a book about, and I believe I talked about it on an early episode of The Lone Gunman. But now, here recently, within the past week or so, I seen this guy ask a random question in a Facebook group, and the name kind of jumped out at me. And the question he asked is, "Where were you when the assassination went down?" Right.
Right. Now I've got some screenshots here.
Yeah.
That you sent me. I don't know if I'm in the exact right spot. I'm at the one with the barcode scanner thing on her head. Is where I'm at. Is that the right spot? Okay.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Okay, go ahead.
So he answered his own question first, and what he said was, "Me," referring to himself, "I was in Dallas supervising the assassination along with Governor Connolly and the Dallas police, snickering at them, calling them names, scolding them. What a disgusting administration. But there were others with their own view. 2 weeks later in Russia, airman crews, still white-faced, shaking at the knees, were so very pleased. About 6,000 air crewmen, about 12,000 ground crew, over 1,000 ICBM launch crew, blah, 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 blah."
Yeah.
And he goes on, right?
What does it say? He says,
"Are you the nut?"
Went out, we screamed, danced, and cheered on the airfield.
Yeah.
I had failed 1 minute after midnight, an armada of atomic, what does that say, bombs, to be dropped on the USA and other installations because of your patriot, kiss, JFK's precious, I was going to say Johnson, but he does use the word, in fact, he uses the word dick. And then there's a response from Rob Clark under there. I said,
"Are you the nut that wrote the book claiming JFK was a cloned spider bat?"
Now, you get a load of this Bart, a clone.
Might seem weird, but when I went to his page, his personal page,
okay,
and sure enough, he did have a post on there about JFK being a cloned Black Widow spider.
Black Widow spider.
For those who think the CIA murdered John F. Kennedy, they had every right to. Soon after JFK crept into office, the CIA director dropped off his 2 kids one Saturday at the White House to chat with his new boss. Last time they were ever seen, just 2 piles of their clothing remained. JFK was a Yogi Black Widow Spider Fang clone and dissolved both kids in minutes. Seen JFK do that several times, handshaking with people. JFK Yogi Spider would fold and bend its legs up to resemble human form in some spit-woven skin.
Yogi Spider?
I don't know.
You mean like hey boo boo, that Yogi?
Yeah, and of course,
like picnic baskets Yogi.
Let's just go
in his book, he claims that JFK was a cloned spider bat that was killed several times, but they could just clone him again.
Right.
That he slept upside down like a bat.
Well, we knew that, right?
That's Super League stuff compared to Doyle or Sinkit.
Yeah, this is way off the fucking charts.
Yeah, man. Yeah, he says now. The screenshot you sent me,
Jackie Onassis Kennedy. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say Jackie was a clone, and she was replaced herself 3 times at Parkland Hospital.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know what gets into people. I ain't kidding.
I don't know.
Well, that's one thing. But
So
the
if you
other
run
thing is that
into-
people take the time to write it out and post it as such. You know?
Yeah, and I'll say his name because he, like I said, he wrote a book about this. It's on Amazon. You can order it. So if you run into Paul Gibson in forums and in groups, have fun.
Have fun. Have a good time.
Have fun.
Ask him about the spider that loves picnic baskets, Yogi.
And the ultimate irony of this is the group that he posted in is called Liars, Frauds, and Idiots in the JFK assassination.
Is he the founder? Was it an autobiographical kind of thing? No?
No, it's a group that's been around for many years. I guess he feels at home there, I assume.
It's his people. He said, that's it. It's my home. It's my home. Hey.
Good Lord.
Guys, I just, via a text message app, sent you guys a photograph. The both of yous. Did you get it?
Got it.
Got it. Okay, look at that photograph, Rob.
Yeah, I know where this is going.
Okay, you have a child there, right?
Yeah.
2 children.
Yeah.
A little girl, grown man. Now, this actually popped up in Bart's group. It popped up in several different groups, but it popped up in the Dealey Plaza UK Facebook group as well. Same person posted it all over the internet. Now, what we have here is a man. He's got his hand around a little girl that looks to be about 8 years old. And the boy there, Rob, how old would you say that boy is?
He's about 12.
12,
10 or
yeah.
12.
Yeah.
Something like that.
12 years old. If we're generous and we say the dad in this black and white photo is 6 foot tall, then that's going to make the kid around like 4'11", maybe 4'10", 4'11".
Oh, it's Oswald now. Okay. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So this photograph was posted in these groups, right? And it's a man. His face is down, guys, and the kid, the boy, the 12-year-old boy with the crew cut.
Oh my
goatee.
God, that's Mac Wallace. No.
Yeah, it might be. It might be. He's crying. He's visibly upset. This child. Right?
There was moving footage of this. You do know that, huh?
Yeah.
No,
Well,
there's real moving footage.
Here's the caption, okay? Real weird history. It says, the little kid is future rock star Meatloaf.
Oh, yeah.
Standing with his dad and sister at Parkland Hospital in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963, news cameras captured his reaction to the announcement that President Kennedy was dead. Okay? Now, that's what this person that posted this on the internet, this member of JFK assassination research groups, posted. This little kid is Meatloaf, the rock star Meatloaf. Paradise by the Dashboard Lights,
What a load of rubbish.
Bat Out of Hell. Guys, what's that one? I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. Rock and Roll Dreams Come True. Meatloaf, he's a rock star, right, Rob? He's an icon.
Yeah.
Right.
And an actor. Great actor in Fight Club.
Now, Meatloaf, his real name is Marvin Aday. He was born in September of 1947 in Dallas, Texas. That would make him 16 years old in November of 1963.
That kid is 16.
He is an only child. He has no sister. Now, the original nickname that he got was Meat. And you know why, guys? Because he was a giant, big high school football player. And that's how the story goes, he stepped on his coach's foot. And the coach,
I love all these conspiracy stories.
And the
It's
coach
beautiful.
screamed, "Get off my foot, Meat," because he was like a big dude. Now, I just sent you a picture of 16-year-old Meatloaf from the high school yearbook. From the high school yearbook, okay?
That kid and that kid are never the same. What a load of bollocks.
And look, this is with his dad and his sister. He was an only child. He didn't have a sister. He was an only child, okay? Now, This is the kind of shit, Rob, that happens on Facebook in JFK groups. Now, I want to say this. This is a public service announcement, guys, please. And I've said this before, all right, more than once. This stuff that we study is both interesting enough and complicated enough without y'all making shit up.
Yeah, hold on.
Stop it. Stop it.
Interject here for a second, right?
Stop it. Stop making shit up.
This isn't the first time this is coming, because the other day I had somebody else who pretends that someone shot at JFK from the Daltex building through the 6th floor sniper's nest corner.
Yes.
Both windows were open, and this guy just fiddles around and puts some stupid 3D drawing out, right?
Well, I may or may not have been approached with the same theory. I politely passed. So
everyone's been approached by this guy. This is a total nightmare, and he's so sure of himself, and God knows what. But okay, so where's the evidence? Oh, it's possible, and because it's possible, I don't give two fucks. He may.
Well, you know.
I think I blocked him. Yeah, I blocked him. I love blocking people on Facebook.
Well,
I almost got 100 on the list. It's awesome.
Well, guys, if you see this on social media, Meatloaf weighed about 260 pounds in 1963. And he broke his coach's foot almost by stepping on it. So, Rob, this ain't the dude. This ain't the dude.
No,
and, and apparently Bart loves animated gifs of bullet paths. He just loves them. So you guys send him more and more and more of those.
This is dreadful.
Dreadful, he said.
And then, I'm talking, it's almost 60 years after the deed. And then you get some schmuck like that approaching you and going, yeah, this is how he got shot. I'm like, oh, really? 3 times through that thing there, through that tiny hole. Not even, and then just drawing some picture with an arrow going through it. And they go, yeah, that's how it went. And I'm thinking about with a moving car in that smaller hole. Right. No, sniper couldn't do it in a normal situation. But no. It's quite possible from the Daltex. Idiot also doesn't think about the position the Daltex in. If you look at the Shell Hirschhorn photos, it would be an absolute piece of piss to shoot JFK down where the fire escape was, that area. And they mounted a rifle on that, with a scope on it. And you can just see what an easy target JFK.
Oh, yeah. Well, look at it this way, Bart. He's either completely wrong or he solved it. We just don't know yet, So
well, let's just keep it
more power to him. All right, I'm told that Mr. Rob Clark has a nice selection of listener emails for us this week, Bart.
Okay, cool.
Oh, yes, wait a minute, Mr. Postman.
All right, email time.
Yeah, let me dig in the bag here and feel around.
He's got to feel his sack, Bart. Give him a moment.
Yep, there's definitely a couple in here. Let me pull this one out here. All right, this one, I believe, Doug and Bart, comes from one of our Indian listeners. Hello, everybody in India. This comes from Mr. Kailash Singh, okay?
All right.
And it goes...
Hello, Mr. Singh.
Dear Mr. Robert and Mr. Douglas, I crave your advice on the matter of Mr. Oswald's age, please. I read that he was 24 years of age when he was murdered, but to my eyes, he looks much older than that. I would say he looks at least older than 30 years in those films when he is in the police station. Could you honor me with your expert opinion, please? It seems very strange. Thank you, and may peace be upon you. Mr. Kailash Singh from Kolkata, India.
Mr. Singh, I think if I had had the kind of day that Lee Oswald had up to that point, I'd look older than my years, too. He'd had a real bad effing day that day.
Also, you got to take into consideration what generation film are you looking at. Most of the films that have been copied are from original film going to videotape, and from videotape to whatever format these days they want to have. So there's a serious loss through generational process, a serious loss of detail detail in the shadows, and a lot of things just swamp together basically into a group. There isn't a lot of detail, a lot of gray tone available as such. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah, and I would also offer this too, to add to it, that I'm assuming, this is me just speculating here, that Oswald was never the most well-nourished child in his developmental years, which could attribute also to the fact that he had a receding hairline. His life probably was very stressful.
Oh yeah, for
due
sure.
to his mother and his schooling and his military service and his defection and whatever the hell he was up to after that. So you factor all this stuff together, and it definitely can age a person more than their years. But I believe, that the records are correct. The Oswald, that we all know and love, was 24 years of age at the time of his death.
I believe that as well. I do. And thank you again, Mr. Singh. Thank you very much, and thank you for listening over there in India. I know you guys are having a hard time with COVID right now. Stay safe, stay healthy, sanitize your hands, wear that mask. Yeah, social distance. We're pulling for you.
All right,
buddy.
Next up, we have an email from our good friend Tim, the Eugenicist Sweatpants.
He has an endorsement.
Greetings, Earthlings.
Hey, Tim, I found out he has an endorsement deal with Lay's potato chips now.
And Coca-Cola.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been busy these last few weeks avoiding the COVID by orbiting the planet up here on Elon Musk's latest reusable space phallus.
What?
Not only has my sweatsuit been the perfect space wear, Elon also fixed Velcro to the walls of the ship so my Velcro sneakers stick to it and prevent me from floating around uncontrollably. My Alan Dulles chest medallion still bangs into my face, though, at times. Anywho, here's my question. My nephew, Randolph, is at that age when he's become interested in the JFK assassination. On the uplink the other day, he asked me for 3 good books he could read as somebody new to the subject that would educate and inform him. Of course, I immediately sent him the Amazon links to 3 of my works, as you expect. But it occurred to me there might possibly be other authors out there who may have produced works of note.
I would think
dudes.
I would think that he would have already gifted his nephew copies of his books.
Yeah.
Just an automatic, like when they come out, he gets one,
Yeah. What 3 books would you guys recommend to those new to the case? Got to run, as my fellow crew person Suzanne says she wants me to attempt re-entry. Later, Tim the Eugenicist.
Sweatpants.
Yes. So, guys, what are some good books out there that you would recommend?
I think Conspiracy, the book by Anthony Summers.
Anthony Summers.
I think that's good. That's good as a broad area of the whole case is being discussed in that, and the key points. A lot of key points are discussed in that. But then after that, I mean, that's what I would do. Like if I had to educate someone about many aspects of the case, I think Crossfire can work for that as well. That's a relatively thin book as well, and then it's up to like what areas you want to go to, basically. Whether you're either talking Secret Service or you're talking New Orleans or medical stuff and so forth. But for basic books, I don't know, Weisberg maybe the first one, definitely the first one. The few books that came out just before or just after the Warren Report was released. They're pretty good too. They're old, but they look into things like right away from the word get-go. So it also gives you an idea of...
Yeah, like some old Joachim Jost and stuff, and Mark Lane, Sylvia Mark.
Yeah,
yep.
Exactly, yeah. And, and that's really good stuff to learn. The old books overall. Sylvia Ma. You've got to read Sylvia Ma without a shadow of a doubt. So that for me, that was an enormously informative book. Just really fact driven, and someone who could make really apt conclusions with the very little material that was available at that time. And, and it worked a lot slower. I mean, now I can exchange 10, 20 stories in a week's time and discuss it with several people. Whereas back then you just send a letter, with some photocopies in it, blah, blah, blah. And then it would take weeks before you got another answer back and so forth. So the pace was a lot slower than it is now. I mean, the case would have been solved real quick if we had this type of media accessibility and the tools of it, the toys. Definitely, it would have been solved.
3 books, huh? Top of my head.
Douglas? Yeah.
Top of my head, real quick. State Secret by Bill Simpich.
That's a good book. Tipping
Point by Larry Hancock. Oswald and the CIA by John Newman.
Very good, very good.
If someone...
Yeah, I'm going to have to go... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if
I
somebody...
like the choice, but I think it's too deep.
You're maybe, but I think if somebody were to be able to absorb those, maybe start with Tipping Point and the other two, it'd give them this sense of, oh wow, shit, there's so much wrong. Wow, look at this.
I was going to include Someone Would Have Talked, which is just basically
that's
the prequel to this last book. But I'm thinking it's too aimed onto the Cuban paramilitaries. If I had a beginner, and I sound like a right moaner, but if I had a beginner that I need to talk, then I would have bring them a book that touches the surface on many different aspects of it, and so forth. New Orleans and this, that, and the other, all bits here and there.
Yeah, he's getting. I was going to say they're getting a lot of good recommendations here.
Yeah.
The Sweatpants Nephew will have like 9 books to choose from now, right, Rob?
That's right.
Rob, which ones are yours? Did I miss them? Which 3 books?
Well, yeah, for the beginner, I would say Mark Lane's book. Definitely check out. One of the first ones out. After the assassination, it had just happened. I don't know how accurate the information is in there, but it's a good read. It's a good, fun, easy read. Let's see, I would agree as far as the general overview of the case. I would agree with you, Bart. Conspiracy by Anthony Summer, Crossfire, and again, I don't know how accurate some of the information is in Crossfire but it's a good general overview of things. Hell, I'll even throw in Destiny Betrayed in there, and A Farewell to Justice. Give you some insight about some of the New Orleans stuff going on, not just Dallas. But yeah.
Yeah,
so there you go.
Maybe on the trail of the assassins. I might, from a beginner's, if I was going like not go as deep, like Bart said, that book, Weisberg's first book, yeah, the Garrison book, I mean.
All right, our next one is from Carrie Boucher, Bobby's brother. Hi, Rob and Doug. Thank you guys for all your great work. Every one of the Lone Gunman, Dallas Action, and Quick Hits episodes are truly classics in the JFK assassination genre. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
I also want to thank Doug for the heads up in regard to the Project JFK CSI Dallas Zoom meetings. It was really tremendous to see and hear Lawrence Schnapp, Bart Kamp, Bill Simpich, and Larry Rivera, among others. Here are a couple of follow-up items. Do you think it is important that, number 1, DPD, Human Resources Manager turned Super Cop Captain William Westbrook worked as a police advisor in South Vietnam as part of the USAID after the assassination, which therefore meant that he was working for the CIA at the same time that Lansdale was working at the U.S. Embassy in Vietnam? Was Westbrook's departure from the USA just a coincidence?
I think, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I've always found that intriguing where Westbrook ended up after going from desk jockey human resources guy at the DPD to like he said there, super cop in one day on that day. Always intriguing. It could be important. Could mean something.
There's a super cop that happened to be in the right place at the right time all the time.
All day. All day. This dude made
human resources manager. What the hell?
He made every location, every key location that day. He managed to be there. It's amazing.
Same as Gerald Hill. Same thing.
Yep.
Yeah, but he was an Army intelligence reservist as well.
Yeah.
Don't forget that.
That's the thing. The thing with military intel. It's very interesting, but there's some good bits. But there's also a lot of rubbish in the documentation on the military intelligence, especially all these so-called fitness reports. I bet there's massive gaps in all the material that's actually made available about, and also the connection between the DPD and was it the 318th or the 316th? And, Lumpkin was part of it, and Gerald Hill was apparently part of it. And that whole connectivity and how from one thing went to another, it's a huge gray area. It's just don't know what actually is going on there. And I doubt, I think it's worse than, say, ONI or Central Intelligence Agency. It's just... it sounds cool, but it's at the same time it's a bit of a quagmire where it's just like, well, there's not a lot to read about this. And some of the interviews, what the ARB did.
All right, so this email is Connie Kritzberg, who was a reporter for the Dallas Times-Herald at the time of the assassination of Dr. Malcolm Perry, who originally said the throat wound was an entrance wound, which would have indicated a shot from the front.
Right.
Had her story changed by the FBI. Kritzberg found the FBI had added a sentence to her article after she turned it in on 11/22/63 to her editors for the 11/23/63 afternoon edition of the Dallas Times-Herald. The FBI added the sentence, "A doctor admitted that it was possible there was only one wound," end quote, to her copy. The FBI inserted the edit after 6 p.m. on Friday the 22nd and sometime before the running of the presses on Saturday morning. Midnight would be a good guess at when an FBI agent added this.
You know what? It's time for...
Is this an example of post-assassination cover-up and conspiracy?
Oops.
Has Connie's association with Madeleine Brown diminished the importance of her story over the years? Thank you for all your hard work, Carrie.
You know what? My little production snafu completely and totally jacked up my ability to pay attention. It totally brought my concentration, and that was my fault, guys. That was my fault. I bumped a thing I should not have bumped.
Here's the deal. I'll answer this for Carrie. As time has passed, we have found out that the FBI and also the Warren Commission changed several people's testimony according to what they had either originally given or written.
Right.
I concur.
And it's not surprising that they were involved with the media as well, adding or subtracting to their stories before they went to print.
Okay.
They would have likely had sources at the newspaper and been in really close contact as far as what information was being given out at the time.
My question would be...
I'm not surprised.
My question would be, how does she know the FBI made the editorial change and not her editors?
Yeah, exactly.
That would be my question.
You know what this is? This is a story. You either believe it or you don't. That's because also it's only Connie Kritzberg that said this. But however, when it comes to coercion from the FBI, then I'm willing to go along with that because I know this from one of the employees of the Texas School Book Depository. They were also coerced to change their position from the 4th floor windows to downstairs, the front of the steps.
Yeah, it could be a situation where she went to her editors and said, what the hell happened to my story? And one of them said, well, the FBI had us do this. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's how she found out that specifically it was the FBI. Or she could have just assumed.
Yeah,
Right,
I mean,
right.
I would like to know more detail. What specifically gives her the notion that it was the FBI that added the sentence and not, hell, not CIA's Mockingbird, right?
Interesting thing, but I don't think it's much of a. I mean, it's a lead, but it's not the lead. You want something
There's
strong,
not much meat
more
on the
things
bone there.
involved. You know,
Yeah,
it's-
maybe bears
it's like
looking
that thing
into.
about Vesiana and Oswald and David Phillips meeting each other, having a threesome in the lobby of this building. It's
Never
like,
happened.
Come on. Yeah, I was there with my girlfriend. Was your girlfriend with you? Yes. What does she know about it? She doesn't remember a thing of it. Oh, right. Okay. So you're the only one that comes up with the story, a one-source story.
Who's that? Is that Wynn Johnson?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, Jesus.
Right.
And you know what? When I got into that big scuffling match online in the forum with Lisa Pease over that, ultimately, but yeah, you know, I'm saying,
Was
look.
it about that?
Well, no, about the Vesiana Bishop Phillips Newman research, where Newman is basically disproving it. But in the end, that was her big proof. Wynn Johnson. That was her big proof. I said, show me in all these millions of documents.
She's too emotionally involved.
I
Every
said-
time when you see it, it's like, oh, God.
I asked her, I said, you show me one piece of paper in the extant record that is dated prior to Antonio Vesiana being released from prison that has the name Maurice Bishop on it. Show it to me. Well, Wynn Johnson saw one. Well, you know what? No, sorry. That's all you got, lady. That's all you got. But yeah, it was basically the Wynn Johnson story. Like, come on, go away with that. Please. Yeah.
All
But I
right,
digress.
Our last email. I
got a little fired up there, didn't I?
Keep them coming, Rob.
Yeah, well, if I had him, I would. But this is the last one we got.
All right.
And it's from QJ Scores. So you know this is going to be a good one.
QJ who?
QJ Scorzani.
QJ Scorzani.
Yeah.
Very
very short.
Top marks for the name. Top marks for the name.
It's very short. It simply says the title. You know, the body of the email says "just saying." Okay, and the body of the email says this: I parked my car in Ruth Payne's garage. Wink, wink. Foxy lady. And that's it. That's all the emails for today.
QJ Scorzani, you win the prize, sir. You win the
And if you would like to have your email read and discussed on the show, please send them to quickhitsjfk@gmail.com. Keep them coming, people.
quickhitsjfk@gmail.com. quickhitsjfk@gmail.com. We love your emails. Tim, Tim's probably already writing his next one as we speak, Rob.
Yes, love the sweatpants.
Well, guys, that's all I had for today. What about you fellas?
Yeah, I had great fun being part of this again. And, I hope you guys keep going strong. And, I always listen in anyway. I try to listen to most of them.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you very much.
They're good. They're a good laugh. So
Yeah.
Well, hopefully I'll see you here like next week, I think, Bart, at the Zoom meeting. I'll be in there with you, and we'll make sure then to tell everybody to tune in and check it out. Make sure they sit in and laugh along and study along and discuss things with us. Right, Rob?
Yeah, and in the meantime, Bart, let everybody know where they can find out more information about what you're doing.
Well, I work as a webmaster and designed a website at Dealey Plaza UK, one word, .com. dealeyplazauk.com. This is where we have an agenda of our listings for the meetings that we're having on Zoom, and we're going back to physical meetings soon as well. Back to the Cheshire Cheese, probably from next month. We'll try and do something, or otherwise it will be in July. And as long as we don't go back into a lockdown, hopefully, and the figures, the numbers stay okay, then hopefully we can do it 2 or 3 times. Otherwise, we'll have to worry about it till next year. And then, of course, my personal site, which is prayer-man.com, prayer-man.com, where I basically put everything about Oswald's last 46, 47 hours of his life on this planet in fine detail, as much as I can find, and relay it to articles over there. Well, my papers are going to be out hopefully in November for everyone to read. Okay, enough time for me. Thank you very much for having me. Ciao.
Dude, thank you for joining us, and I'm going to hold you to that. You will be back, Bart. I promise.
Oh,
we love to hang with you, buddy. Well, all right, Rob, let's wrap this thing up. Boom, there's the music. Guys, you can find my show, The Dallas Action, presented by Wall Street Window, just about anywhere you find quality podcasts. Spreaker, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and on and on and on. It's ongoing, in-depth, informed, and measured JFK assassination research and study in auditory form. The Dallas Action Podcast, presented by Wall Street Window. It is another fine podcast like this one from the folks at Drop D Podcast Productions. Rob?
And you can stay abreast of my show, The Lone Gunman Podcast, by subscribing on your favorite podcast listening device, or following at The Lone Gunman 7 on Twitter. Every new drops there. You can listen to the link straight away, or follow on Spreaker. And so, for Doug Campbell and Bart Kamp, this is Rob Clark saying tune in again next time, when after hearing yet another podcast episode based on yet another blog post refuting Fred Litwin, we'll hear Doug say,
Hey, I want to gouge my eardrums out.
We are out.
Peace.
Hey, I want to gouge my eardrums out.